We are live for day 3 of the spring cleaning challenge. And today we are talking about my absolute favorite thing, one of my favorite things to declutter, one of my favorite things in general, partially just because it's taboo and nobody likes talking about it and everybody doesn't want to talk about it. But it's also one of the most important things in our life, and that is our wealth. So today we are decluttering our wealth. And as usual, before we begin, I want to drop into a quick prayer for us. So, if you would, wherever you are able, to close your eyes and just be present with yourself and with your breath. Dear God, we are gathered here today in your name and in your glory. And I pray that through the conversation today, you return everyone who is watching today live, the replay, and the recording, that you return them to your original design of wealth, your divine design of wealth, and that they may remember who you brought them here to be on this planet. God, I pray that you bring them back home to themselves as always, that bring them back to you. In your name, amen. So, okay, for those who do not know me, I'm Joanna Dreiling. I am a life coach and a home organizer. And you, once again, might be wondering why we are even talking about decluttering wealth inside of a spring cleaning challenge. But the thing is about our world and about our life is that if we take a look at our wealth and our purchases, we will naturally declutter our homes, because if we declutter what is happening in terms of what we are purchasing, clutter doesn't even get into the space. But as always, we're going a little bit deeper than even just that. And I'm really excited to chat with you about all of this today. So let me just remind you what the 3 layers of home are as we are diving into today's class. So in the first class, we talked about the first home, which is our body, our soma, which involves our wholeness of our being. So the body, the mind, and the soul. In our second class, we talked about the second home, which is our house, the place that we inhabit, and really the thing we are truly spring cleaning. And today we are talking about the third layer of home. And the third layer of home is our earth. It's the holistic ecosystem that we all live in day to day. And as I mentioned in class 1, and as we all know, we have little control over that. We really cannot do much about the outside world and about all of the things and the crazy things happening on this timeline. And we can't do much about its energy, but we can change the city that we live in. We can even change the house that we inhabit. We can't do much beyond that in terms of influencing the world. But where is the one thing that we can control and the one thing that we have primary influence over? It is within our wealth. And when I say primary influence over, I mean the primary influence that we have in terms of in the earth. It's our wealth. What directly impacts the earth and its inhabitants, and what we have the most control over is our wealth. And when I'm saying in terms of our wealth, we are talking both about how we create our wealth and how we actually circulate our wealth. So it's the both and the giving of the receiving and both sides. And so not only do how we create does how hello does how we create wealth influence the earth and directly influence the impact the inhabitants of the earth, but we also have direct control over what we purchase has direct impact on the inhabitants of the earth, and especially in how we dispose things and stuff like that. So to me, I like to think about wealth as, and I invite you to do the same, I like to think about wealth as a current. And it is called currency for a reason, but we are in charge of that current and how it flows in our lives. And to me, our wealth is our ripple effect in the world. Like how we circulate wealth, both in how we receive it and then how we give it, creates a ripple effect in the world. And it's honestly, when you really sit there and think about it, like that's exactly what happens. And it's both like if you do, let's say for instance, work like me where you're doing life coaching, like that creates a ripple effect for everybody that I work with. And it creates a ripple effect for everybody every single client that I have, it creates a ripple effect in their lives. And then from all of the money that they pay me, I get to create a ripple effect with how I circulate that money and how I spend that money and where I put that money and where I choose to invest my money. And here's the thing. The bigger reason that we're talking about wealth today is the fact that until we and why it's the third layer of home beyond, like, obviously earth is the third layer of home, but why wealth is because until we no longer live in a capitalistic society, money is the most consistent and long-term relationship that we have in our adult lives beyond ourselves and that with the divine and God. And even your long-term partner, genuinely, you will not they will not be engaged in your life in the same way that money is. Even like maybe if you are married to your high school sweetheart, that might be untrue. But even your long-term partner will not touch every single day of your adult life in the same way that money will. It touches every single day of our lives, even when we are not spending money and not in direct exchange with it on a day-to-day basis. Because yes, like you pay your rent at the beginning of the month, you pay your mortgage at the beginning of the month, or whenever you pay it, but that's so you can live in your house over that duration of that 30, 31 days, right? And so no matter what you are doing in your life, there is an exchange that is happening with money and with wealth on the regular every day, no matter how you slice the pie. Money is touching your life every day. So it's a fair wager to say that if you shift how you relate to money, you will naturally shift and change your life. And that's part of the reason that we're talking about decluttering it and decluttering wealth. But even more so, like to me, why I'm obsessed with talking about wealth and all the things related to it is because it is such a profound part of our human experience that, like, as much as we want to escape the matrix and do all the things out of this capitalistic society, we exist in a capitalistic society. And so, us being able to relate to money and relate to wealth in a different way allows us to consciously involve ourselves in this capitalistic society in a way that actually allows a fruitfulness of spirit the one that we actually want, and it's not actually eating away at our souls. So, in every class so far, we've talked that everything has energy. Let me get some water. That everything has an energy and everything has a vibration. And the thing is that money is no different. Money is energy. And like I said earlier, it's a current. It is literally called currency. And and there's a reason that it's called currency because it is a current. It is a system that runs in a circuit. And us as our individual selves, and if we are in partnership, if we are married, like we are in charge of the flow of its flow in our lives. But truly, money is a neutral resource, and we are the ones that give it its power and its intent. And unfortunately, our examples of wealthy people are not so great these days. And over millennia, they've not been so great. And we often believe and associate that money is bad as a result of seeing the bad that rich people do in most cases. And genuinely, it is a part of my mission to shift this in the world and to make sure that more good people have money and wealth and they have an accumulation of wealth and that they become rich. Because here's the thing about good people: if good people have money, they will naturally do good with their money. Because the thing is that wealth is an amplifier, money is an amplifier, and so it's only going to amplify what is already there. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but that's fine. Um, so one thing that I also want to note, and because I have been bringing God into every single one of these conversations, is that God wants you to have money too. Like, not only is it a part of my mission to make sure that more good people become rich, but like God wants you to have money. And God, it is one of God's most profound resources for us here on this planet. And we are meant to steward it with as much reverence and intentionality as we're choosing to live in that level of intentionality and reverence. And especially if we're like, you're in this room, you are here. And I know that because you are here, you are wanting to live more intentionally. And because you are wanting to live more intentionally, and because money is an everyday part of your life, we have to get more intentional about how we relate and approach money, because then we are able to resource ourselves better, because it is one of God's resources. And literally in the word resource, we have our command. Resource. If you break it up, it literally means to come back to source. And that's the thing with money, is that if we can return to our original design, the original design of money with the way that God intended it to be, then we will clean up all the capitalistic hobblegop. Hobblegop. That's a new one. Um, that we have hanging out. And like, we'll get there. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in today's conversation. But I had to mention this because we are designed to multiply this resource. But we have to know how to steward what it is that God has given us in this current moment in time, and to have reverence and gratitude for what currently is being given to us in order to expand and multiply this resource. And honestly, like, yeah, our society isn't set up to help us multiply this resource. It's unfortunate, in my opinion. Okay, it bears emphasis, and let's be really clear, that money is not a mindset, period. Like, money mindset work has its value, it has its place, and it will only get you so far, because money and wealth, and my expanded definition of wealth is both like the external resources of money, but also the wealth that lives inside of us and the genius that lives inside of us that naturally creates our wealth. It is a lived experience of our nervous system. Like, can I say it again? Money is a lived experience of our nervous system. And so if you go back to class 1 where we were decluttering the soma, a lot of what we were talking about in terms of the conditioning can be repeated and replicated in the realms of money. And in most cases, it's even more prominent because money has such a charge to it and wealth has such a charge to it. It is such a, activating thing in our world that it has quite a deep hold in our nervous system, and it has quite an imprint on what is happening. And again, as we talked about in class 1, it's usually not of our own volition that we have the imprint that we have around money. Most of our patterns around money are not our fault. They are our responsibility, though. And they're the inherited beliefs that you have from your parents because of how money and wealth was modeled to you when you were young. And we're also on a regular basis told so many things about money in our society, like money doesn't grow on trees, like being rich is greedy, the rich are like eat the rich, and the rich are bad, and the rich are greedy, like whatever the thing is. And as much as money isn't a mindset, if you operate with these mindsets and you operate with these beliefs, then you'll never be rich. You'll never actually accumulate the wealth that you want. Because if those deep seated beliefs that have been projected onto us, either by our parents or by society, they will they will block us and hold us back from, because they're imprinted in our nervous system and we haven't done the work to decondition them. We will constantly work ourselves. We'll wonder why in the world we're not making the money that we desire. We're wondering why we can't hold on to money in the way that we desire. We wonder why we can't actually become wealthy and really accumulate that value. It's because it is living deep within your nervous system and it is imprinting on your nervous system. And that is part of the work within decluttering wealth is looking at those beliefs and those identities and what is actually held within our system relating to wealth and relating to money. And one thing I really also like, if money is not a mindset, wealth is an embodiment. And so, and I mean that like whatever you are embodying is, where am I going with this? um Wealth is an embodiment. And so it's not a mindset. It goes so much deeper than just the mind. And we can be embodying wealth or we can be embodying scarcity. And so if we're trapped in scarcity, we're going to embody that. It's going to consume the mind. Your thoughts will go that direction. You'll constantly be in that state that I was just talking about of working your butt off, then wondering why in the world there's no money and why in the world you can't hold on to money for anything. And again, our society, especially in growing numbers these days, is not set up for for a proper fruition of wealth accumulation. But if you're tapped into and trapped, as it were, into in your innate value, you will embody that innate value. And then naturally you can attract more wealth because wealth is magnetized to that embodiment. And it's not so much that it's magnetized, but it's that if you are embodied in your wealth and you are connected to your own innate value, then that will be emitted from you and you will provide more value for people. You will be able to create more value for people. And then therefore the wealth will be reciprocated back to you through the form of money. So how you like, kind of that boomerang effect of like how what you are embodying in terms of your wealth. And like, if you are really tapped in to the value that lives inside of you, then it will be returned back to you because of the value that you created for other people through whatever your work is. And this that I'm talking about right now, that wealth is an embodiment, is really a matter of remembrance and returning to God's original design for you and God's original design for you and money, and remembering the innate gifts that you were also given from God. And this is what I support my clients with in my life coaching stuff, life coaching stuff. Um, and like it's way beyond the confines of what we can get to into this conversation, but within life coaching, this is a lot of what I'm helping people with is I'm helping them embodying their inner wealth so that they can sustain outer wealth and really create that circulatory system that I'm talking about. And rich people are not inherently bad. Like they're not. We just have all of these really bad examples, and we have a lot of them. But again, and I said this previously, but it bears repeating, is that it's not the money that is making these like it's not the money that has made rich people bad necessarily. It's money is simply an amplifier of what's already present within your system. So if these people were of ill intent and they have a lot of money, they're guess what they're probably going to do? Ill intent with their money. And because we give it its power, we give it its intent. And so again, like that's why I'm so passionate about good people having money and being rich, is because if people who are good, they have a good intent for money, they give back to their communities, they provide for their families, they enjoy experiences that create more wealth on the planet. We want more of that. We want more examples of good rich people, and it is a huge part of my mission in order to create that, because if money is an amplifier, then we really need to think about what it is that we're actually amplifying with the money that we have. Because every single time that you spend a dollar, you're amplifying a message. Every time you buy from Amazon, you're amplifying the message of convenience. I built out a van in 2021. And my main primary goal for that van was one, no plastic. I didn't buy any plastic. And two, the no buying from Amazon on this van. And do you understand how much easier it would be for me to have built out that van if I allowed myself to buy from Amazon. It would have been profoundly easier. Like, I can't actually explain to you how much easier it would have been. I wouldn't have had to go to the hardware store as much. I wouldn't have had to like scroll REI for hours. I wouldn't have had to Google search so much to find alternatives. But I was committed to that because I couldn't vote with my dollar like that. And we have to think about the fact that when we spend a dollar, no matter how many dollars it is, we vote with our money. We vote with our dollars. And so by boycotting whatever, or just like choosing not to invest my money there, I was no longer voting for convenience. I actually went out of my way to make it harder on myself because I didn't want to vote for that message and I didn't want that to be a part of it because that was being amplified with every dollar that I was spending with Amazon. We amplify the message and we vote for more convenience. And like we love convenience, especially here in the United States. We absolutely love our convenience. But the convenience that comes with Amazon is cool. And especially in the case of Amazon, and I'm not totally knocking Amazon, but I'm not a fan. And I've more or less not been buying from Amazon for over 5 years now because of a lot of what we're talking about in today's class. It's because yes, as much as we want convenience, like it comes at a cost every single time. And that's what we're amplifying when we make investments in companies like that. But guess what? If we are going into a local business, around that same time, I broke my coffee press. And rather than going on Amazon and buying a coffee press that would have been at my house in a day or two, I chose to walk down the street, pay a little bit more money, and buy from a local kitchen store. And what did that do? That amplified my local community because that money, I was voting in that direction. I was voting for staying small and staying local. And guess what? That paid for somebody's salary, that kept the store. I mean, it not only not only my purchase, but it helped keep the store open. It helped keep the store thriving, especially because this was like in COVID times that this happened. It's like because of the choices that we make with money, we amplify certain messages. We vote on every single time we spend our money, we are voting for a particular future that we want. Because and we saw this even a few months ago when we were aiming to boycott Amazon, and you can see this with the boycotting of Target. It's like that's caused millions of dollars in revenue decrease for Target because people have voted and people are purchasing based on their values more than they have in the past. And that's profound because guess what? We are wanting DE&I initiatives in most cases. Most people are wanting DEI initiatives because DEI initiatives really do create better world for everybody because it creates equity access for everybody and not just a chosen few. And it that is the amplifier that money is, though, is that like we are voting constantly. Like it'll amplify what is within us, money will, but it also will amplify the future with however we are choosing to spend it. And again, if you're here, you're choosing to live intentionally. And I think wealth is one of those places that we can absolutely bear to be more intentional with because it has a profound influence in the world, period. So, money is simply a medium of exchange. Let's just keep this in mind. Like, it's just a medium of exchange that in our capitalistic society that's how we've chosen to exchange money. So I provide you value. Like currently I am sitting in a VIP client's home right now, home organizations. Hello. I am currently sitting in the home of a VIP client, a home or I'm gonna get get this right. Oh gosh. And like I am sitting in the home of one of my VIP home organization clients. And that's why I have the headphones on. That's why we don't have my typical background and everything. And I provide the value of organizing her home, and she gives me money in exchange for in exchange for the value that I provided in her life. So let's use her as an example, okay? Like I am sitting in her home right now, and this woman values freedom, and she values peace, she values serenity, and she values vibes. Let's just be real. Like she values things being all vibey and dreamy, and she loves a space that actually provides her spirit a level of exhale. Okay. And she has found that investing in me as a home organizer, she finds it innately valuable, partially because that's what she values, but also it saves her the time and the headache of the process of going through and decluttering all of her stuff. And because of the value that that provides for her, she gives me money in exchange for that. But guess what? Without my own connection to my wealth within myself, AKA my gift of being able to home organize better than just about anybody I know. And that's a serious thing. That's not even me tooting my own horn. That's a serious thing. It's like she's able, like, because I am tapped into my innate value and my innate wealth and that gift within me, I am able to actually exchange with her for that value, right? And so this whole process, like, I save her time, money, and not necessarily money, but like honestly, it does actually save her money in the end because she is able to focus on her business and get her real estate and do all of her stuff that she does within real estate and pay me what my expertise so she can focus on her expertise. It's like, a really busy CEO paying for somebody to clean their house. Like, you pay that person for their expertise, for the value that they're providing. So guess what? You can focus on your expertise and continue creating with the innate wealth that lives within you. So then you can see this lovely circle. So practically, wealth is defined as an accumulation of value or a plentiful supply. Okay, deep breaths. I'm just running through this so fast because I'm just so passionate about it. Um, and again, like I kind of was hinting at this in what I was last saying is you, as you are, just existing on this planet, you don't actually have to do anything. You are an accumulation of value. You are wealth embodied. You might forget it sometimes. You might forget it on the regular. You might not even be truly tapped into it. But you, as God designed you, as a child of God, are innately wealth. And as you are innately wealth, just simply as you are, because you are an accumulation of value. And God gave you gifts on this planet, it gave you gifts inside of you for you to steward yourself to guess what? Create value for other people. So then you get value in exchange for that. But it takes our awareness of what our gifts are, awareness of what wealth lives within us, and the wealth that we are an embodiment of, in order for us to actually own and actually live out being a steward of those gifts. Like, and so inherently, by being a steward of those gifts, you get to steward more wealth and you get to steward and prosper in a way that God designed you to. Because guess what? God is the one who gave you the gifts. They are God given gifts. And if you use those gifts, you will get gifts in return. And we want to keep in this process of decluttering in general and really in decluttering wealth, we want to keep the things, the people, the experiences in our life that appreciate, going back to our last class, appreciate, AKA increase that value that we have. So there are relationships that we can let go of that do not increase our value, that actually depreciate our value. It's time to let them go. I'm just going to be frank. And I'm getting off track here, and this is kind of tangential, but there is so much wealth inside of our relationships. And you can like, you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so by that logic, it's like you can be, if your relationships are not appreciating your life, if they're not increasing the value of your life, it's time to take stock in them, because if they're depreciating your value in your overall life experience, it's probably not worth it. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I'm digressing from my notes, but it felt worthy to say. um, And it was originally in my notes to talk about the wealth inside of relationships, but that's like wealth is literally a whole course in and of itself that I can talk about for hours, and we're gonna save you from that for right now. Um, and like within this, what we want to keep in mind, and again, this is outside the bounds of this conversation, is we want to keep in mind how we actually create wealth. And a lot of us are creating wealth in a way that isn't leveraging our natural God given gifts. And if where a lot of us, unfortunately, because of the capitalistic society we live in, are having to and really feel we have no choice in our capacity to create wealth in a way that is fruitful for our spirit and that actually does appreciate our life. And most of us, unfortunately, are creating our wealth in a way that is depreciating our life and our value over time because those gifts that I was just talking about are not being leveraged. And because our gifts that God gave us are not being leveraged, we then are one, amplifying, not like amplifying a scarcity type energy because we feel like we don't have a choice in the matter. And we are, and, and the work that we're doing is depreciating and decreasing the value that we are holding within ourselves because we're not actually expanding and appreciating that value by actually going and giving those gifts out into the world, right? It's like you're holding on to the gift. It's like sitting inside of you and like it's not going to do anything if it's just sitting inside of you. You know what I mean? And I'm not suggesting you go quit your job and totally shift careers, but I will say, like, I got into this work because of a soul sucking job, because of a job that was depreciating my value, because of a job that didn't appreciate my value, if we're talking gratitude. And then I explored what it was that I felt like I was God, like given, hello, that I explored what it was that I felt like God had put me here to do and like what a part of my mission it was. And like that that's like the biggest ripple effect that I feel like we make within our wealth and how we create our wealth is like if we are in a soul sucking job, that's emitting itself. That is, reverberating outside of us. That's part of that ripple effect I was talking about earlier. And if we don't feel in alignment with how we are creating our wealth, it's going to show in a lot of different ways other than just our bank account. It's going to deter our health. It's going to make us feel worse. Our relationships are probably going to suffer. And excuse me, hello. And it's going to create this reverberation in our life that we become more displeased in our life. And I like on the vein of me being very passionate, it's a part of my mission to help more good people become rich. It's also a part of my mission to help those same people do what they love with their life. Because if we have more people doing what they love, if we have more people who are creating wealth in a way that sets their soul on fire, that actually gives them life, that actually increases their innate value, then think about the reverberation and think about the ripple effect that that creates in the world. Like that creates so much goodness and so much love and so much abundance in the world that, like, I don't know about you, like, we need more in the world than we ever have before. And I'm not recommending that everybody, go quit their job, start a business, and become a life coach. That's not at all what I'm saying either. Genuinely, if this is calling to you, if what I've mentioned just now really is speaking to you, then sit with what you feel like your God given gifts are. Sit with what you feel like God put you here on the planet to do. Sit with the mission that's on your heart and actually sit with whether or not you might have the capacity to explore shifting into that reality. Because as scary and as like fear inducing as that move may be, on the other side of it is so much goodness and anabolic energy, that constructive energy that we talked about in class 1, and really that appreciation energy of really increasing the value of your life and inherently then It's creating a better overall ecosystem in the world and in the earth itself, on the earth itself. So that is create the point that I wanted to make in terms of creating our wealth. And again, it's too much for today's class, but that was a little bit of an intro around it. And that is generally like what I work with most on with my life coaching clients is really understanding that inner wealth that lives inside of you, and then how we can embody that more, how to cultivate that more, and then also how to actually start giving that out to the world. Because when we actually give our innate wealth, when we give the gifts that we were given, it multiplies back to us, period. And so as I've been kind of talking about and talking through, is wealth is a circulatory system. So as you provide value with your gifts, you receive money and then you go spend that money. And so it is a constant cycle of giving and receiving. You give your gifts, you receive value, you give your money, back and forth. And here's the thing. And here's why we are even talking about this and having this conversation today is because most people are avoiding their money. And then they're wondering why in the world they don't have any at the end of the month. And they're wondering where it goes. They wonder why their life is falling apart when one of their most prominent relationships in their life is largely avoided. If we avoid it also, we can never create a better reality for ourselves. Like we will never create a better reality, financial reality for ourselves and an actual external reality for ourselves if we don't sit and take the long, hard look at our bank account and at our spending and at the ways that we are not only just creating money, but really in how we are exchanging it and how we are spending it. I have been tracking my money for the last since 2012, I think 2013. So it's been well over a decade that I've been tracking my money. And I'm not out here saying that I keep a really strict budget or anything like that at all whatsoever. But I know for the last 10 years exactly where all of my money has gone. And I don't even want to admit to you where all of the money has gone. And it's, but I don't avoid my money. Like I might avoid, I actually avoid making money more than I avoid actually money itself. But I am so in touch with all of the subscriptions that come out of my bank account. I am so in touch with where every single thing goes. And I'm pretty meticulous about it. I mean, I am tracking every single purchase. And then, like, I got a two-part system, and we'll get to that a little bit later if we get there. And, you know, the thing is that most people, where I had a thought there and I lost the train of thought. Um, because I'm not avoiding my money, I have a much better relationship with money than of just about a lot of people that I know. And because I actually sit down with my bank account on a regular basis, because I actually track my expenses, I am very aware of how I'm circulating money. I'm very aware of what value I'm creating in the world. And I am very aware of the reality that I'm in right now. And then, therefore, what I need to do in order to create a better reality for myself. And now, hold on, let me double check. Oh, no, I'm coming to that later. Okay. So, much like why people avoid decluttering and don't want to do it, is most people, and it is, I don't understand my notes. So, a lot of the same reasons that people avoid decluttering their house are a lot of the same reasons that people avoid their money. Because money is because it is such a profound relationship in our life, it is also a very profound mirror for our human experience. It is typically much more about people resisting looking at themselves in that way and coming to terms with how they've been spending their money, like with our belongings, that, yeah, than it is about the actual money itself. People are just more unwilling to look at themselves like that than they are to actually, like, just sit down and come to terms with it and build the awareness with it. And like with our belongings, our money habits and how we circulate says a lot about ourselves overall. And a lot of people would just rather avoid themselves and would rather just avoid their bank accounts. But the problem with avoiding our bank account is it perpetuates the cycle of not knowing what is going on financially in our world. And again, if we avoid our bank account and we avoid our money and our wealth altogether, we're kind of this is a little far-fetched, but it's like we're kind of avoiding our life in general. We'll never be able to create a different reality for ourselves if we aren't aware of what one of our most precious resources is doing and where it is going in our life. And I yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Um, and again, yeah, it's a lot more about how people not wanting to look at themselves in that way and really not wanting to actually be present with what is happening in their financial reality. It can be a lot because guess what is on the other side of you looking at your bank account is you coming to terms with your overspending. You coming to terms with the fact that you might be a hoarder with money. Like there are plenty, like however the wealth shows up for you, a lot of us are, and if you're on this call and I've attracted you into my space, you've probably are an overspender in some way, and that's like part of what you're avoiding. But the thing is that if we don't know, if we don't look at our bank account, and if we continue to avoid our bank account, we will never stop the cycle of overspending. And I am getting ahead of myself there because I have a whole story about that one. Again, let's just talk in now that we've talked about wealth as a general concept and just like the really deep nitty gritty pieces of wealth, let's talk about why we are even talking about decluttering wealth in this class. In a decluttering course, that is, because I mean, most people who have read why in the world, like most people who have read this, the sales page or whatever it is, and this like for the challenge or for the course, are probably questioning why in the world wealth is a part of this. And we have to talk about it because it is again like super important not only to come to terms with our wealth, but just to be aware of all of these things and to know and be getting rid of what isn't necessary, because again, decluttering means to just get rid of what isn't necessary. So we want to get rid of those beliefs that aren't necessary. And so the whole reason we are talking about decluttering in this class is twofold. So, first, again, we want to understand the beliefs that we have and the identities that we hold within our wealth. And we want to look at the imprints that are held within our nervous system related to money and wealth, and then rid yourself and get rid of what is not serving your next evolution and where you desire to go in your life. I actually totally went over a very, very important point. So, one of my mentors says that cash is an object, money is a relationship, and wealth is an identity. And in the process of decluttering, something I really want to stress to you is how much wealth is an identity. And especially in the process of decluttering your wealth, we want to take a look at our broke girl, broke boy identities. And we want to see and look at where we can declutter those habits, where we can declutter that identity in the first place, and totally rid ourselves of the broke girl energy. And when I say broke girl energy, I'm talking holes in the socks, like keeping your socks and like underwear that's just ratty and gross and disgusting, and keeping those pieces of clothing that are that also just have like so many holes in them that you've relegated to being just like a loungewear at home. It's like holding on to those things Is you is you holding tight to the broke girl identity? And if you really want to step into your rich woman or your rich man, is like that's an identity. In order for you to be rich, you have to hold the identity of being rich. You won't be able to bring that into your reality and co-create that with God and be a co-laborer with God around that if you're not actually embodied in the identity that you are rich. Like, period. And and so part of the decluttering process is looking at those identities around our money and our wealth and what we're holding on to in those ways, and then how we can extract and declutter and pull out what is unnecessary and just let it go. And again, like I'm giving you these high level concepts within this, like us decluttering our beliefs and us decluttering what's happening in the nervous system, especially related to money, is deeply charged. It goes very deep. And like I work with people on this on the regular, and it takes months to really deeply work through all of this stuff, years almost, because it's years long that that has been sitting in your nervous system. So we have to realize that this is about transformation over a lifetime, and that I, like, for instance, have been working really deeply on my embodiment of wealth for the last 5 years plus, like, and really deeply in money mindset and really deeply in shifting my wealth identity for 5 years. It has taken me a really long time to get to a place with money the way that I am and the place that I am at with wealth. It didn't just happen overnight. It took a lot of unearthing and unraveling these identities, these beliefs, and these imprints within my nervous system as to why things are the way they are within my financial reality. So, as you're decluttering your wealth, just hold so much passion, compassion, and grace for yourself in this process because it will take time. But as you grow in the awareness of it, you will grow in your choice to make a different choice, right? You will grow in your power, excuse me, to make a different choice. So, secondly, we have to understand, like, to really declutter our wealth and to really understand why you have so much clutter in your home in the first place. We need to understand the root cause and why the clutter accumulated in the first place. So, and you may guess that this is connected to your wealth. Like everything that's in your home, like I'm in my client's house right now, but every single thing that's in here had to have been purchased with some form of wealth. There was some sort of value exchange that occurred for every single thing that I am looking at right now. And everything you purchase that comes into your that everything you purchase comes into your home. Everything that you purchase comes into your home. Even if you go on a trip, even if you go out and travel in the world and have an extraordinary experience, those experiences live inside of you. So even if you've gone and purchased something that isn't actually a thing that you can hold on to, that experience lives within you and that gets carried into your home. So a way of helping us declutter our home is by consuming less on the front end. And so then there's less clutter to even bring into the home in the first place. And so, and this is again, it's all connected to wealth because in order to even bring it inside of the home, there has to be wealth. There has to be some sort of value exchange that has occurred. And if we declutter our purchases, then less stuff will end up in our home and we will naturally have less clutter on the back end. And then we won't need to go through this process as much. It's like really like Marie Kondoing your purchases can really help you naturally just Marie Kondo your home, you know? And so by decluttering our wealth, we naturally declutter our home. And we often are buying from a scarcity identity. In terms of wealth being an identity, we are often buying from a scarcity identity. And usually, especially if you're a whole overspender, we are usually buying from a place of wanting to fill a hole. And I'm going to use myself as an example on this one is that I have done multiple financial fasts in the past. And honestly, I've been kind of doing one for about 6 months now, and it's been really every single time I do it, it is really enlightening. And fast just means to go without. And when I first did my when I did my first financial fast, I only did it for a month and I went down to the bare necessities of what I needed to buy. So I wasn't allowed it wasn't considered a no buy situation because I just think that that's absolutely unrealistic. Um but it was only then when I removed my capacity to purchase, or the willingness, I guess, and the choice to purchase just willy-nilly, it was only then that I realized how deeply my overspending really was, and how deep-seated that belief was, and how deep-seated, honestly, the identity of being an overspender was. But it was only then that I realized that I was overspending and buying from a place of filling a hole of unworthiness, and, like, that I was buying in order to feel good about myself, in order to, like, fill some part of me that wanted something, like, and that I was buying in order to, like, soothe my inner child and bring something to myself that I could have brought to myself without the purchase, but because I was unconsciously spending, which is a lot of overspending, is just unconscious purchasing and disembodied purchasing. It's that is part of the ripple that we create. So, but it was again, and I highly recommend for anybody who's watching this to do a financial fast, to just take a month and remove one of the things that you normally buy on a regular basis, or go down to your bare minimum spending, only the things that you absolutely need, like your bills and your food and all of that. And you're not, not buying anything when you go to Target, you're not buying extra things, or you're not letting yourself go into TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and like just keeping it really tight for a month, because that will show you so much about your purchasing patterns so fast, because you just removed the thing. And I learned when I removed alcohol from my life that you don't truly understand the impact and the imprint that something has on your life until you remove it out of your life. And for so many of us, we're purchasing willy nilly on credit cards or with cash, whatever the case may be. And we have like this running loop and an identity that we can just like keep going. And we don't understand that identity of just and the pattern of continuing to purchase is actually like keeping us on this hamster wheel of financial dissatisfaction, because we're so on the hamster wheel that we can't see that that's where we're running, right? So we have to remove ourselves in that, and like that financial fast will do that for you. Um and it's I yeah, it's just extremely enlightening to bring awareness to your patterns in that way. And so what you really want to do is embody your innate value, and really purchase from this place, and purchase from that place and that identity, and watch a ripple happen in your life. Because if we can purchase from a place of empowerment, if we can purchase from a place of our embodied wealth, that will create a ripple effect. Because again, like in the same way that us creating our wealth creates a ripple effect in the rest of the world, the way that we purchase also creates that same ripple effect. Like how I said that money is an amplifier, and that we vote with our cash every single time we spend. Well, our energy and what we are holding, the identity that we are holding as we purchase, the gratitude that we feel for our capacity to pay our bills, for instance, that creates ripple effect in our life and adds to the value of our life and appreciates our life because of the identity that we are holding in the world. And again, that just creates a ripple everywhere. So when it comes to decluttering our wealth, especially with our wealth, defining your values is extremely, extremely important. Because if we do not define what we find valuable in our life, how will we know what is actually valuable for us? For me, for instance, and you've heard a little bit about this, I value Mother Nature and I value the world that we live in. And it's amazing to me that some people don't, but that's neither here nor there. And I know the ripple effect that all of my purchases make, both within my life and when I use it, and then once it's no longer in my use. And I want to give back to the earth in the ways that I can. So I tend to buy as sustainably as possible. So I buy a lot of sustainable project products. So I opt away from plastic products whenever I can, especially single use. And I haven't bought plastic wrap in like at least a decade. And every single purchase I make with the mindset of what is most regenerative for both me and the earth, because I value regenerative living. I've That's just part of who I am and how I've grown to be over my years in this work, is that that's a great, like, one of the things that I value most. And so because I'm clear in that value, then I purchase from that place. And quite frankly, it's like if you value convenience, then yeah, you are purchasing from Amazon, and that's okay. Like, that's what you value. That's also what you have time for, and that's like what it comes down to in a lot of cases. But and you're seeing it more and more in our society, is that people are purchasing and from their values and for their values. Like, the boycott from Target is a perfect example of how people are buying in alignment with their values. They value DEI. Oh, this company isn't valuing DEI. Okay, then I don't want to vote with my money there. And so, if we get clear on our values, then it naturally will declutter our purchasing, because then we'll be more mindful as we purchase, being like, oh, just in like in your house, when you get clear on your values, it becomes the decision making in terms of what to keep and what not to keep becomes very easy. It also makes purchasing very easy. If we get clear on our values, then we know whether or not pretty quickly we want to make a purchase like that, or even where we want to purchase that thing from. And so, to declutter our wealth, we need to know what is coming and what is going, and let go of what doesn't align. And we want to look at, again, what appreciates our life and what depreciates our life, and acting accordingly within that. And something that I want to note is also, and I kind of mentioned this, is like we want to have appreciation and gratitude for everything in our life, including what we wish we hadn't bought in the first place, and including things like bills. Like, electricity pays for you to have a light and heat in most cases, and air conditioning. Like, that's amazing. And yet most of us are really upset that we have to pay all of our bills. Our bills are what allow us to live our life with convenience and with more ease. Like, we live in a developed country, and a lot of us don't realize how much the developing world doesn't can't put toilet paper in their toilet, for instance. And, you know, it's like we could still, if you didn't pay for electricity, then you'd have to use candles at night, for instance. Like, that's just one example. But if we can hold gratitude for everything that we purchase, it will lead to a natural appreciation for everything in our life, both within our home and in general. And especially, like, sometimes what we've bought in what we wish we hadn't bought holds a lot of lessons, and we learned from those particular buys. And sometimes, much like an item just is meant to be a gift, sometimes purchases that sometimes just the purchase is the purpose of the purchase, right? Sometimes just that purchase is just meant to be a lesson on what you don't want to buy into the future, and what is not meant to come to you into your future. But it took you buying that thing in order to realize that. So, in order to actually illustrate all of this, we are coming into the end of the presentation, and somehow we're still at an hour. Excuse me, I had intended to keep this a little bit briefer than the other days, but that did not happen. And that's okay. I am very passionate about this topic, and I really hope you guys found value in this. And one, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. But in order to really excuse me, exemplify what it is that I've been talking about today, I want us to do a quick little drop in meditation on wealth. So, if you are able to take a second to just catch your breath and get into some deeper breathing and take a few cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you drop into your breath, I invite you to close your eyes however you are able. And as you close your eyes, again, deepening into your breath and taking a few cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, just connecting with the life force energy that is your breath and just receiving the breath. That you don't have to think about breathing, you just breathe. And thinking about that, this is often what is that you're breathing, that's innate within your human experience. And thinking about the fact that wealth is also innate within your human experience, but it's your availability and your allowance and your remembrance of it that is the difference. And as you are here in your body and deepening into your internal experience, I want you to bring up in your mind wealth, the idea of money as a concept and as the relationship that it is on a regular basis. And as you bring this up in your mind, what is coming up? Again, as we have been doing through the spring cleaning challenge and through this course, notice what you're noticing about what's coming up for you. As you think about wealth, now as you're sitting here in your own total experience, in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that we're walking into a large room. And in this large room, there's a table and it's far away and you're walking towards it. And as you walk towards it, you notice that there is a bounty of wealth on the table. Now, as you notice this bounty of wealth and this abundance, I want you to notice again what you are noticing. Are you contracted around it? Do you feel expansive? What is it that's present for you? Can you fully open to receive this wealth on this table? Now, whatever experience that you have with this wealth on this table, I want you to just sit with it for a little while and be with whatever is coming up around wealth for you and grow in your financial awareness around and your wealth awareness for yourself and where you are with it. Now, as you're sitting with this, all of this abundance and with the table of wealth, I want you to locate, well, okay, just Sit with it for a little bit longer, and be with whatever is arising for you. Now, now that you've sat with the table of wealth, I want you to really think of wealth as and sit with wealth within your body. Where is it in your body? Where do you feel when you think of wealth? Where do you feel it in your body? Now, wherever you feel it in your body, go be with it and sit with it. And you might feel some contraction around where it is. You might feel some pain around where it is. But again, just notice what you're noticing about where wealth lives in your body. This is vital information. And as you're sitting with it, I want you to ask, what do you need me to know in this moment? And simply observe. There's no need to judge what arises, just observe what arises. And as you're sitting here, make any movements that you might need to make, and just continue to be with it and be present to it. And as you're sitting here with wealth, thank it for all that it does in your life, for how it affords you to live, for how it affords the roof on your head, over your head, or how it affords the clutter that you have in your life in the first place. Just hold some gratitude and appreciation for everything that it does within your world. And as you close out this practice, come into a deeper breath. And as you feel called, open your eyes, take a look around, and orient yourself to the space that you're in. And come back to the video land. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this wealth conversation today and decluttering your wealth and being a part of the spring cleaning challenge in the first place. We have one more class, and for our next class, and the homework is to actually sit and have a date with money and really just sit there, and with this date, you as you would with a real date, get ready for it, do what you want to do, however you want to do it. But the key thing is for you to look over your most recent bank statements. And if you track your money, look over however you track your money. But we want to look at what purchases can you declutter for the future? What purchases were not necessarily necessary? What purchases were made from a place of scarcity? What purchases were made from a place of unworthiness? And, are there random late night Amazon purchases that we could let go of? Are there subscriptions that you forgot you had? And as you go through this process and as you have this date with money and you connect with your finances and you're no longer avoiding your bank account, just simply notice what you're noticing, as we have been this whole entire time. And as you go through all of the purchases that you have made in the last month, practice feeling gratitude for every single one, even if it was an unnecessary purchase, even if it was a subscription that you no longer need anymore. Practice the gratitude and appreciate it for what it actually did bring into your life, whether or not it was actual value or just a lesson that's still just as valuable. And again, I want to remind you of the stabilization tools that we've been going over in all of the other classes. So we have orienting, which is looking around the room and just observing the textures and the colors and everything you're seeing. And then we have self contact, which is, rubbing your legs, giving yourself a hug. Then we also have grounding, which is feeling into the weightedness of where you're seated, how you're standing. And then lastly, we have our breath to help us stabilize. And in order to help us stabilize, we also use a longer exhale. So that is our homework for the next time. And I wish you so much good luck in this, because if you haven't been spending time with your bank account and if you have been avoiding it, there's no need to hold judgment for yourself. Just hold so much grace and so much compassion for yourself and hold gratitude about where you are, because it's profound wherever you are in your journey. It's profound because you can grow in awareness from here. And that is the whole point in this process, is really growing in our awareness of this. And it can be tough to really sit with ourselves if we have been avoiding it. And so I am just hoping that it goes very well. And I'm excited to hear more about how it goes for everybody. But I want to thank you once again for being a part of the spring cleaning challenge and being a part of decluttering your whole home, because this work is so profound and it is amazing work for us to be doing here in the world. And I just want to thank you, because by doing this work, you are creating a profound ripple effect in the world. And that is amazing. So until next time, happy tidying.